Hello again, everyone. Lug71 here. I am Lugnuts, and welcome back to part two of our beginner's mission editor tutorial. So let's get back into it. All right, so it's time to set up our battlefield here, basically. Let's say for the purposes of this particular mission, that the Chinese have seized Saipan, Tinian, and Rota, but they couldn't quite get Guam. So what we're going to do, you see we have some airfields here. One, two, three, four, five. They are all, by default, neutral air bases. So we're going to make these two air bases here blue, and then these three up here, we're going to make those red because they're in Chinese hands. Okay, now we know these are neutral because the text is white. So all we need to do is click on the air base, and we can make it blue up here in the coalition settings. Okay, see the text turn blue, so we know that's a friendly airbase. We'll do the same for Anderson. That's blue. And now for the Chinese ones. Okay, that will be red. Tinian is red, and there's Saipan. Red. Okay. Now, before we get into building our mission, one last thing I want to take care of is we click on this cloud icon here. This is our time and weather, and here we set up those parameters for our mission. So we don't need to change the date. You can make it any date that you like. The time will be okay. And we're going to pick our cloud cover. We're going to go for we'll go for the lightest one in the presets. You can see there's a bunch of them here, and there's a wide range of different weather options for you there. Okay, so we'll click OK on that. Now down here, we can set up our wind directions and speed. We're not going to put too much in. Okay, these are wind speeds at certain altitudes. We'll leave it about 8 knots at ground level. That will correspond to that particular air wind speed at 1,600 feet. You can have different wind directions at different altitudes, which is very often the case. So you can just set those however you like. All right. I would suggest keeping your wind speed at ground level fairly low for your first scenarios. All right. So that's that. We're ready to start putting in some Chinese targets for us. So we're going to put some ground targets in here on Rota. I'm going to switch this into satellite mode. I prefer to edit on that most of the time. So we're going to pick ground units. Okay. So we're going to pick a Chinese unit. And we have armor selected. We'll stick with that. We have BMPs here. Yeah, we'll do that. So what we're going to do is name these. Now, in naming groups and units, I find that to be an extremely important thing. The reason for that is you are going to want to be able to discern between your groups and units just by name. So what I typically like to do is give my group names very descriptive and accurate naming. And also I put a location in there as well. So I know what kind of unit it is and I know where it is. So that's going to be BMP, and I'm going to put that at Rota. So I've got the type of group, what consists of the group, which is BMPs. It's at Rota, and I'm going to put -1. That way, if we add a second platoon of BMPs, we can use -2 for our second one. So what we can do is we want to Control-C, copy that, and place that down here in the unit name. Control-V. All right. So before we do anything else, now we have to place our unit on the ground. So we'll put it there. Now we can control our unit facing, which way it faces. Let me zoom in so you can see it. Controls our facing of the unit. Okay, so we can also enter a heading that we want it to face. So we can put 90, we'll face the other way. 359, there we have a north facing. So kind of about like that. Okay, so we're going to have him face over that way. And we have, oh, I should point out, this is a vehicle group name, and this is a unit name. And very often I make the mistake of calling this units. I'm just used to saying units. But this one up here is actually the group name, and this will be the name for each individual unit within that group. So what we have when we place this unit group, the first unit that we placed automatically added this -1. So we have BMP Rota Group 1, and this is the first unit in that group. Now, as we add more units, we're going to put 4 in. Watch this number here. It will automatically name appropriately. That's the second, the third, and the fourth. That is how we easily tell the difference between groups and units. All right. So we want to position uh, the first vehicle here first, because as you can see, if I move this, the whole group moves. So we need to position unit number 1 first, get that where we want it, and then arrange the others. So we'll put these 2 by 2 here. And there we go. We have our first group placed. Now, say we want to put a second platoon of BMPs here at Rota. So all we need to do is highlight that group, have it selected, and we're going to copy it with Control C. And how about we put it here? All we need to do is place our mouse cursor where we want that unit and hit Control V. And there it is. Now, what you can see here is my naming is really down here, not the way I want it anymore. This one advanced correctly. It's BMP Rota Group 2. All right. So let's copy that. Control C. And we can put that here with Control V. All right. And that will be good. Now, what I do is reduce this to the first unit. Okay. And we want -1 here for that. So the BMP Rota Group 2, but this is the first vehicle, that group. Now, when we add the last 3, that number shall progress again. And we have our numbering correct. So remember, select the first vehicle, place it where you want it, and we'll place these 2 by 2 again, like that, and say the last 2 here. Now we have 2 ground groups, ground targets here at Rota for us to attack. So I think the last thing I want to do here at Rota, as far as ground targets go, is place some statics. We're going to put some Chinese aircraft in here. So we click this, the triangles over here, add or modify static objects. Okay, we can select any country that we'd like to have. So ours is going to be China. We'll leave it like that. There are any number of statics in here you can pick. For art purposes, we're going to have planes. I'm going to put static planes Rota, and that'll be -1. Okay, so we can copy that, paste it here, Control V. Okay, So now we're ready to place it, and we'll just put it on a parking spot right here. And from here, you see we can control the facing just like the other ground units. Have it face wherever we want. That's about how we want that. Now we can um, have this selected and copy it again, and we can place more. So Control C, and we'll put the cursor here on another parking spot and hit Control V, and we'll put a third one in, and we'll hit Control V here as well. Now we have 3 static planes here at Rota. Now our numbering on those last 2. Yeah, let's see, the first one is good. 2, 2. Now I'm not going to worry too much about the unit names in these statics because each group only has one, so we can differentiate that with the group name. We know our statics uh, only have 1 unit in each group. So, okay, that's our statics placed. Okay, so for our next task here, we're going to add um, some units here at Tinian, this end of the runway. And I thought what we might like to do is put a SAM site in for those who would like to take on a SAM site. And today we are going to put an SA2 site in. Okay, so we have China selected, and now we want air defenses here in the category and the type. So what we're going to start with is a search radar as our first unit for this group. And you can see here the P19 flat face search radar, SR means search radar, can be used in SA2s, 3s, and 5s. Okay, P19 flat face search radar. So that will be the first unit. Okay, now we need to name our group, and we're going to call this SA2 Site Tinian. Okay, we will copy that and paste it here, -1. All right, so we're ready to place it on the map. We're going to put first unit right there for this group. Now, a typical SAM site like this is going to have a number of units, obviously. For it to function correctly, all of these units must be in the same group. So we're going to be adding different types of units to this one group. So we're also going to need a tracking radar. We're going to need 5 launchers and say a couple of trucks. We usually see a couple of trucks around the SAM site. So what we're going to do is add 8 more for a total of 9 units in this group. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You see we have our numbering correct because of what we did previously. But we have 9 search radars. We don't want 9 search radars. So we're going to select the second unit in this group. And there, like that. Before you go and trying to select individual units, do what I haven't been doing. This box here for edit has been checked. You need to go to edit, or box for add has been checked. You need to go to edit, because if you have add and you try to do that, you're going to make a waypoint, and we don't want to do that just yet. So delete that, go to edit, and select the second unit in this group, and we're going to add our tracking radar. And for the SA2, it's this one, the S75 Fansong Tracking Radar. TR, that's a tracking radar. So we'll make it that. The third unit is going to be a launcher. The next 5 will be launchers. And that is right here, the SA2 S75 Guideline LN. LN is a launcher. So we need 5 of these. Okay, 3. There's 4. And there is 5. All right, so we have 2 units left in this group. Those are going to be trucks. So we need to switch the category to get our trucks. And those are under the unarmed category. And the old standby Euro 375. We'll put in 2 of those, unarmed, and there's our Euro. Okay, now we move into the positioning. And as before, we need to position the very first unit in this group where we want it. These SAM sites typically have the radars at the center, and then we have usually the launchers are arranged in sort of a star pattern around the radars. I'll say about like that. And there are trucks over here. Now, we can arrange the facing however we like. We can turn it, make it look a little bit more realistic. Then we turn this dude here and have him face maybe like that. Okay. Now, the launchers are typically oriented, like I said, in the star pattern, facing out and away from the radars. Okay. This is done so they can quickly address any threat from any direction. Okay, that one looks okay. And this one, I like that. I think we got them all. Yes, we did. All right, now as you can see, a group like this took a little bit of work and a little bit of time to get going. And we can save ourselves some time on future SA2 site setups for the Chinese by creating a template for that. What that will allow us to do is to save this whole setup as a template, and then simply with one mouse click, we can add that whole site with this setup. I'm going to show you how to do that now. So we need to have this group selected. And we go over here to the create and modify templates, the barbell looking icon there. So we have this group selected. Before we click that, the SA2 site at Tinian. And we're going to give it a template name, SA2. Now we can save that template. All right. So the next time we wish to place one of these SA2 sites for the Chinese, we can come here to templates. And here you can choose templates from any country. In this case, we want the Chinese. All right. And then these are the templates that we have. You see, I already have SA2 sites set up in here. This is the one we just made, like that. Okay. So now we have China selected, we have our template selected we want it, and we create a group from this template. So all we need to do with this screen up here is left click on the map where we want the unit. We can change its facing any way we like. Okay, so before we do anything else now here on the map with our mouse, we need to exit here. If we don't and we click on the map, we're just going to keep putting SA2 sites down, and we don't want any more SA2 sites. So exit that first. Now, we have an SA2 site set up. We don't need a second one. Anytime you have a group that you just want to get rid of, just select it and hit the red X, and it's gone. So we have our SAM site set up here on Tinian. And I think we're gonna leave Saipan alone for now. And the next task I think I'd like to take care of is show you how to place some ships and get them moving. So we're going to put in a Chinese service group. We're going to call this, oops, can't spell, group. Okay. And we'll put in 1. I seriously doubt if we'll add a second group, but that's just my habit. Okay, Control C, and we want to have our unit names here. Control V. Now, again, here in the unit name, we have surface group 1, and we're going to add a -1 for the first unit that will be in that group. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some cargo ships in this group. I'm not going to put anything that's going to shoot back at us just yet in this beginner's scenario. So we have a Bulker Handy Wind in here, surface group 1-1. So now we're ready to place it. And we'll put him right around there. And what do you say? We add 2 more. So now we have 3, and our numbering is correct here. The next thing we need to do is add some weight points so he'll sail around. So put the first one here, second one here, there. Just have him sail around these islands for our purposes here. All right. Now, we can set the speed down here. These ships are not fast. I happen to know that 14 knots is as fast as they're going to go, so we'll leave it set at that. And we're going to move on to putting in some Chinese aircraft for us to shoot at. All right. We're going to stick a group of Chinese aircraft out in this area. Now we want to add aircraft by clicking the aircraft icon over here. And we're going to put some MiG-21s in again. So we are going to call that MiG-21 Group 1. We're going to select our MiG-21s here. Where are they? There they are. All right. So you see it's named the first one, 21 Group 1, Unit 1. All right, we're ready to place that on the map, and we'll put these guys right about here. Okay. And you know what? I'm going to make them a little closer. It won't fly too long before we run into trouble. All right. So there are a number of things we are going to do before we add our second plane to this group. We're going to get the first one all set up with its waypoints. We're going to get it set up with its altitude and its speed here. And we're going to get it set up with its skin and armaments first. So let's give this a starting altitude, say, of 21,000 feet. And we're going to give it a starting speed in Mach, say 0.85. Okay, that will equate to a speed of 525 knots ground speed. Okay, so now we're ready to add our waypoints. And we will do that by clicking this Add button here. And we're going to have them fly, say, here and then here. Okay, so now we can move on to setting up the actual aircraft. So we're going to put a skin on it here. People's Liberation Army Air Force white. And we're going to put in what we want it to be armed with. Now, for this scenario, I'm going to take off the radar guided missiles and just let them have its IR guided ones to make it easier for beginners. So we can remove the payload here. Right click on that. We can remove the payload here. So now this plane is armed with 2. Oh, wait, those are the radar guided missiles. We want the IR guided ones. No, these are IR guided. We're going to give them the R60s. We'll give them the R60s. That'll do. Okay. Those are definitely IR guided missiles. So they're shorter range, and it'll give you time to get these guys on radar and maybe get some missiles in the air before these guys are in range. All right. So we have our waypoints in, altitude and speed set. We have our skin and armaments and fuel all set up. So the next thing we want to do before we leave um, this screen is to click this box, late activation. The reason we're going to do that is if you happen to fly, say, from Anderson Air Force Base and you decide for your first mission you're going to attack ground targets. And then you come back and land, and then your second mission is up here to deal with that SAM. And then you land and rearm and refuel, and you go over here and decide you want to attack these ships. By the time you get back here and land, these guys will have flown their waypoints and then all over creation. And once they get to this final waypoint, who knows what they're going to do? They could get in your way while you're trying to do something else over here, or more likely, they're just going to land here at one of these air bases and then won't do anything else. So we're going to activate them by a trigger. I'm going to show you how to set that up. So when we have this on late activation, these guys will not be present in the mission when it starts. They will only become active when we trigger them to become active. So it seems like a good time to set up that trigger. So I think we have everything set up with our MiG-21s the way we want. So before we leave, we'll just add a second one there. So now there are 2 MiG-21s out here in that group. In this group, you can set up your pilot skill the way you like. Rookie, trained, veteran. We'll just leave them where they are for now. So off to a trigger. So we want to click this small circle here for create a trigger zone. And we're going to create our trigger zone, say right here. Now we have two options for the type of trigger zone that we can make it circular, the way it is now, and we can make it larger. We can make it much larger by putting in the radius in feet. So it's 9,800 feet now. So let's say we go 15,000, make it a little bigger. Or we could go 25,000, make it bigger yet. Okay. So the other option here is a quad point, and that is a square. And if we click edit up here, we can drag those corners and make that trigger zone really any shape that we like. Okay. That is very handy in some situations. All right, we're going to use a circular one today. Now, naming is very important in trigger zones too. I like to name these um, trigger zones for what they are intended to do. So this trigger zone is going to be intended to activate the MiG-21s. So I put in here MiG-21-1. That's the name of the group of the that we're going to wish to activate. And then I put act for activation and trig for trigger. So we know as soon as we click out of that box, this will change. So we know by looking at this trigger zone, it's going to activate the MiG-21-1 group. That's what we want to have happen. Okay, so that's our trigger zone set. We can change the color of our trigger zones. Just like that. Okay. Now, what we're going to do now is come up here to set our rules for the trigger zone. This is where we make it happen. We've got our planes on late activation, and we have a trigger zone set up. Now we have to make the triggers happen. So on type, we just want this one to happen once. This is our trigger zone name. And here again, I name this for what this trigger is intended to do. So again, this is MiG 21-1 activation. Okay, MiG 21-1 activation. That's going to be our first trigger. This is basically just a name for what you want it to do. Next, these are the conditions that need to be met in order for the trigger to happen. So in this case, we want these guys to activate. We have to set the conditions here that will cause them to activate. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put part of coalition in zone. We're going to put this to blue, and we're going to make this to airplane. Now, what this has done, see this here, we have our trigger zone here. Part of coalition, which is blue, that's us. As soon as blue flies into here, these guys are going to activate. All right. Now, unit type, I can put all. So that means that any blue unit that goes in here will trip that trigger. Now, I would set it to airplanes because what if we had naval ships and all that kind of stuff cruising around in here? They could trip that too. In fact, they would trip it. So we've got it set to airplanes. So anytime a blue aircraft flies into that zone, these guys are going to activate and they're going to fly their waypoints. All right, now we have to actually make it happen. This is the trigger, what trips the trigger. Now, when that trigger is activated, we have to tell the mission editor what we want to happen. In this case, we want to group activate, and here MiG-21-1. Now, in this drop-down menu, you can easily see why naming is important. I know exactly which one I want to get, right here, the MiG-21-1s. This is way better than trying to decipher the basic naming that occurs automatically. If you don't change the names to something, descriptive. So we want the MiG-21-1. So there we have it. We have the name of our trigger, we have the conditions, and we have group activate. So we have everything set there. Now I'm going to add one more thing I want to have happen, and that is we're going to send a message to our coalition right here. Message to coalition. We're going to send it to the blue side. That's us. And it's going to say, move my cursor here. MiG-21s are in the air. All right. So when this is activated, the planes are going to activate, and we're going to get this message so that we know our trigger's working. And down here, this is the duration of the message. We can just leave that for 10 seconds. And here we can opt to start, have a start delay, which means we can set this to any number of seconds to delay the message after that trigger is activated. We'll leave it at 0 for now. So that's our trigger set up. The last thing we need to do is put aircraft in here that we can fly. Now, I'm going to, for myself, put in an F-18. Y'all can put in whatever it is you'd like to fly. Keep in mind, if you're going after ships, try to choose something that can go after ships. Of course, they're not defended, so you can basically attack them with anything that has, the ability to, even just drop unguided bombs, dumb bombs on those. So, all right, so to add our aircraft, choose my country, U.S., and we're just going to call this player. Oh, my typing is bad. Player F-18. Okay, cap is fine. That'll do. Let's change our type here. There's our F-18. Now, we have two options here for planes that we want to fly. Actually, we won't. We're just going to put that as a client. Yeah, we'll put that as a client. So we'll be able to select that aircraft at the beginning of the mission when we fly it. We have the unit number here, which is fine. We're only going to have one unit in this group. So now we need to place it. We'll place it right here. This looks like a cool parking spot. So now right here, we can change our call sign if we like. I'm not an Enfield fan for some reason. I like Chevys. We'll be Chevy 11. All right. And down here, we're going to put however we want to take off. If we want an air start, Okay, we can start at a turning point and enter an altitude and speed. Uh, so if you want to start uh, from the ramp, uh, that'll be good right there. And we'll be starting uh, hot from the ramp. Okay. Actually, no, that's not right. Take off from ramp. Take off from ramp is a cold start. Okay, that's a cold start. I usually start that way. I like going through there. Now we can take off from parking hot, or we can take off from the runway. All right. So I'm going to do the ramp just for me. Next, we're ready for our armaments. See, we're going to fly. It has a set for cap. That's fine. Let's see if we have any other loadouts in here in fighter sweep. Yes, I do have some here. Okay. So I'm going to take 4 AMRAAM Cs, 2 AIM-7, and two AIM-9s. And we've got a full load of fuel. We won't need that much, but it's plenty of missiles for 2 target aircraft. So, all right. So we're going to enter our waypoints now here to fly. So here's how we're going to address this. I'm going to move this target or this trigger zone out this way just a little bit. And then I'm going to adjust this here a little bit. I want to keep that trigger zone away, a little bit further away from our path to Rota, so we don't accidentally trip that if we decide we want to take care of ground targets here first. So that ought to do it. So we select our aircraft here again, and we're going to add our waypoints. Now, usually when you put waypoints in a mission, it's basically a path you want to follow to get to your target area and then home again. In this beginner scenario, we're going to do a little bit differently. We're going to put some waypoints in here. They're not going to be intended to fly sequentially. What we're going to do is we're going to put waypoint here, waypoint 1 here. We're going to put waypoint 2 here. We're going to put waypoint 3 here to try to find the ships. And we'll put waypoint 4, say, right here, so we can fly to the trigger and activate that for the air combat. So we're going to make sure this is on add here. And we're going to put our first waypoint, we're going to put right dead center of the runway here. That way you know, hey, look, if you want to make a runway attack, you've already got a good target point on the center of that runway. And over here on Tinian, we're going to put a waypoint close to, but not on the SAM site. There's waypoint 2. And we'll put waypoint 3, say right about here. We can start looking for ships at that point. And waypoint 4, we're going to put that right here in the center of that trigger zone. And we'll add a 5th waypoint to come here and land. So to do that, we're just going to say, hey, look, we're landing at Andersen Air Force Base. And that'll be that. Okay. So what I like to do is mission like this so I don't forget what's what. This is a good use in a mission like this of our mission briefing. So waypoint 1, ground targets at Rota. Okay, now we can put waypoint 2, SAM site Tinian. Waypoint 3, surface group search. So once we get there, we're going to search for the surface group, and we're just going to add here north of waypoint. At least it'll be north of the waypoint if we go after these ships early in the mission. They're only going 14 knots, so they're not going to get very far very fast. Okay, and waypoint 4 for air to air. MiG 21s. Okay, so we're going to save that in our briefing. That way we can bring that up at any time we like during the mission if we don't remember what waypoint is for what, and we can see that there. So we can close that, and I think we are pretty much set to fly this mission and give it a try. So we'll see you in the next part where I actually fly it, show you what some of this looks like, and maybe we'll get in a dogfight or two. Okay, until next time, thanks for joining me. I'm Lug71.